Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to Know Your Gear QA podcast episode 295. And hope you guys are having a great week. Hope you're ready for the end of the year. It's the end of the year, right? Tomorrow's New Year's Eve, and then it's over. So some of us are excited, some of us maybe not so much. But I want to first start with the big announcement. Last week we did a giveaway with a Zither Stand. It was a limited edition Know Your Gear. When I mean limited edition, I mean we haven't even put it out ever. It was just, but anyways, it's the neon sign Know Your Gear. Glenn Bailey from Virginia won. I sent him a message. He responded, so that he's all ready to go, and we'll let Zithers know so they can send him out that stand. And I want to thank you all for joining us over there on the Instagram. And then also it ties into a question. So something you guys may not know, but Declan, who's one of the patrons here, by the way, his birthday is on the 1st. Happy birthday, Declan, for that. Happy birthday. I don't know why I'm saying it like that. Just happy birthday. And, but he had a question. The question was, on the Patreon and the members, which are the channel members are the ones that you see in the green, in the green writing with their avatar. Channel members and patron members are automatically entered into all contests that we do. Unless they can opt out. But I mean, what that means is when you go on to Instagram and try to put in your thing to enter a prize, we automatically put those lists and names in there with you. So in other words, it's like kind of like a feature, right? So we just enter them into the contest already, so I don't have to do it. But his question was, and I thought this was an interesting thing to know because I know a lot of you guys are patrons or think about things like this. The question was why I mentioned to my patrons that I cannot run a contest for patrons only. It has to be open to the public, which is what this is. But I can populate them into the contest. In other words, I can, enter them for them. It's because we have their list, we have their information, so we can just do it. And the reason is because it has nothing to do with YouTube. That was somebody was saying, hey, maybe it's YouTube or maybe it's the social media regulations. There's different countries, different rules. That's why we try to stay into the United States for contests. But the reason why you can't have a contest for just your patrons is that if you have a contest and the requirement is that you pay for the privilege to be in the contest. In other words, if it's only open to people who pay, that's essentially gambling. It's no different than if you go to the casino and slap some money down. You're putting money down for an opportunity to win something. So it has to be open to the public. So our contests are open to the public, but we also, for convenience, put the patrons' names and the member names in the contest as well, like I said, unless they opt out. So there you go. So it's a nice little feature. Plus, it's it's a nice way. And what's great is our contests are not that big. This last one, I mean, it was in the hundreds of names. So it's not like you're against thousands of people to win a prize. So I mean, those are pretty good odds for a cool contest. That was a $200 guitar stand plus being something you can't buy and cool. So I always love that I have my mug, and my mug's like the wrong way. Way to use that branding. Whoops. Something else to mention in the comments, comments in the comments section down below. No, in the description, there is a year-end sale on our merch. 15% off. There's a merch code. I don't do that stuff usually. It's a very rare thing. If you guys know, I mean, we do it once a year. This is when we're doing it. It's when I thought about it. There it is. If you want to get some Know Your Gear merch, we tend to change it the next year anyway. So I mean, a nice way to get some stuff before it's changed if we change it. So, I'm not old, I'm vintage says, buying a Gibson is also gambling. Yeah. It's so funny how much Gibson, how much crap we give Gibson, and some of it deservingly so, but it is kind of funny. All right. So hope that explains a few things. And Adrian says, what about the geeky stuff caps? This is still the prototype one. In fact, you can actually see on this one, there's this little outline on it where it's not, this isn't actually a finished hat. This is the prototype. Like I said, I wanted to see how I like it. I like it like this. So we're working on it. Okay. Okay, I want to we got to get to guitar stuff. Okay, I'm going to start with the very first question of today, which of course was an easy one, is Turf Shifter, who says, early happy new year, Phil. I'm thinking of getting a Classic Vibes 50 Strat. Do I do it? Ha ha ha, I know the answer. Of course the answer is yes, because we're enablers here, and you say yes. Classic Vibes 50 Strat. I say do it. But also be aware that's a different neck than your standard Strat. It's a little thicker, so just be aware of that. Okay, the next question, early question, was a strange one for me. I thought it was strange, but it's a subject we're talking about. Luke said, hey, Phil, any thoughts on, and I'm Rabea. I always say Rabea. I know it's with an R. It's Rabea. I hate jacking up people's names. And so you have to understand, I've heard them say his name. It's not a name I'm familiar with other than, obviously I've been watching him on the Chapman guy with Anderton's Chapmans for many, many years now, but I'm pretty sure it's Rabea. I don't know. Like I said, the more I think about it, the more I'm going to say it wrong. Anyways, it says, what do I think of him leaving the Chapman brand? Is this a sign that Chapman is dying? Oh, we always go there. I understand, Luke. We'll get there. Along with Rob, he's talking about Rob Scallon leaving as well because he went to Schecter Guitars. Chapman's online popularity ? So these are kind of fun questions because I don't like to deal in the rumors and that stuff. So let me explain, because I don't know. First of all, I don't know Rabea. Okay, Rabea. And I know how you guys are saying it, Rabea. Like I said, the more I'm saying it, the more I'm jacking it up, and I don't mean anything because, like I said, I'm a huge fan of him. So here's why. By the way, so I'm just not saying that because like YouTubers are like, no, I'm a huge fan. I'm a huge Nuno Bettencourt fan, and the first time I ever saw him play, not Nuno Rabea, is on Anderton's, and he was playing I think he was playing in N4, or maybe he just did a Nuno riff that he nailed it, and then later I saw him on N4, and then I found out he's a Nuno fan, so I always thought like, hey, if we ever met, we would drink beers and talk about Nuno, but I've never met him. So anyways, let me give you some insights. Why would artists leave companies? And besides, the obvious reason. Okay, there's a couple things you guys may not be aware of. So, and again, this is the important part. I have no information, no inside information on why he left or why Rob Scallon left or anything. I can only give you some educated answers. More importantly, they're educated. These are answers that would be relevant to any artist, why they would leave. Okay, so first of all, you have to understand that most artists are compensated with they're not usually given a salary. What they're usually given is a percentage of the sale. Okay, so like a royalty. In fact, it is a royalty. The common royalty in our industry and most industries is going to be 6%. I cannot say that is dead on for every artist. I can't say that's what he was getting. I can't say that they were getting more or less. What I can say is that is if you were talking to an artist, which is something I've done for companies, I have helped sign artists to companies and worked both angles. I've helped an artist go to a company and work with them, and I've helped a company get an artist. And I can tell you what was involved in those transactions. First of all, you want to know what the baseline is. The baseline is usually a 6% royalty. That royalty is usually on the the total sale of the instrument, not to the consumer, unless you're direct to sales, okay, or direct to consumers. So in other words, if you have a guitar that sells for $700 to the dealer, and the dealer sells that guitar for $1,000, you would not get 6% of $1,000. You would get 6% of the $700. So that's how they kind of would do that. Now, the reason why that's important is that obviously somebody could give somebody more royalties, but there's an actual thing that happens, and once you know it happens, it makes a lot of sense why artists jump. And again, this isn't why he is moving from there, because I'm going to give you another reason why he could be leaving. I'm just giving you the first important reason. A lot of times that royalty deal, how it's worked out is with an advancement. So what that means, like an advance, right? So we see it in sports all the time, football and stuff. So what that means is, let's say an artist goes to a company and says, we want to make a signature instrument. We want you to pay us a royalty. And they decide on, let's say, the 6%. There's a forecasting of how many instruments will be sold in a period of time. And the artist, usually who has a manager, is going to request some kind of advance on that royalty. So by the way, Tony, he said, hey, I could not live on 6% anything. Well, Tony, I will answer your question as well. So back to the advance. So it is common, not standard, but common, that an artist would go to a company and request the advance, just like a record label, right? We're getting advance on making your album, advance on royalties, okay? So they'll say, anyways, it doesn't matter. So here's why this is important. What happens sometimes, if they're really smart at writing up the contract, they'll write it up in a way that the advance is paid regardless of what the sales are. That's really the big one, right? Let's say you get an advance for $50,000 and they think you're going to sell easily $60,000 worth of, in other words, they're going to pay you $60,000 royalties. So once you hit $50,000, they'll pay you the $10,000 difference, and of course, then continue. But what happens if you only sell $30,000 worth of instruments? In other words, there's only $30,000 of royalties against your advance. Well, it depends on how the contract is written, but a lot of times the contract's written is they just keep the advance. So it not always, but it can be written that way. And so it might be prudent for an artist to go, look, we're never going to get past this advance at this point. And there might be other factors in the contract, in other words, how long they have to stay. But for instance, if they've hit a point in the contract where they don't have to stay anymore, they're free agent, so to speak, and they don't think they're going to sell past the advance, might want to leave to another company. This happened just recently with a company I worked with a few months ago, where that exactly what happened. And everybody was being very upfront with that. The artist did not hit past their advance, and they wanted to basically go to a new company and get a new advance. And sometimes that's all factored in. Like the company knows when they're paying the advance, they kind of know that's kind of like, the game they're playing. Now, sometimes there is a point where you have to pay part of that advance back. That could be in their contract. Again, this would all be decided on how big the artist is, how bad everybody wants everybody to work with each other. But that could be a reason why you see an artist jumping a brand, just like jumping a label. They've got to a point where they're not going to make any more money, none. So even if they sell, 10 more guitars, they're 500 guitars away from breaking the point of that advance. So that could be a reason why an artist leaves. That is not the typical reason, but that is a reason why an artist would leave. The other reason is, of course, poor sales. So if they're not getting an advance, they didn't get an advance. Sometimes that helps because, hey, they got the money up front. Sometimes they're just getting the piece of the pie and they're not selling that many instruments. And all signature artists, in my opinion, well, I say all, that's too broad of a stroke of that. The majority, 99% of artists that I've seen that sell signature product has a lifespan. That product only sells for so long and it dies off. That's why you see even the greats, Van Halen, Vi, Petrucci. I'm talking about the great product sellers coming out with new product constantly because that product dies off. You got to keep new exciting stuff. So that also could be a factor. The artist may want to develop new product constantly. Tosin Abasi famously left Ibanez, not because he was unhappy with the quality of the product or the company. In fact, they're still friends to this day, the Ibanez company and Abasi, according to Tosin. That's what he told me. So as far as I know, they're fine. And the Ibanez guy told me they're fine. So, I'm just going, that's where I got that information, that they're fine. But they both told me this separately. Tosin mentioned it and Ibanez mentioned it, that they take a long time for R&D and they were taking forever to develop the new guitar he wanted. And so he wanted to go on his own and develop his own product faster because that's an issue. Maybe an artist wanted to develop a new guitar and the company's like, yeah, that's not in our forecasted for next year. Let's do it for 2024. And the artist is thinking like, I'd rather get this guitar out now. I have something exciting to share. And so that could be a reason why they left, because maybe they don't want to leave. But again, it's not that Chapman isn't selling. Maybe the model is selling. Maybe Chapman's doing great, but he wants a new product. This is all, of course, in theory, he wants to put out a new product and they're unable to release new product at the time. That could be a reason why they part ways. It could be also, by the way, some artists get fatigued with playing the thing that they're signature to. I have told you guys, I always feel stupid saying this out loud, but maybe this will give some weight to it. I've always said since I've been on YouTube, I will never do a signature instrument. And every time I say that, of course, I can hear people going, oh my God, he's a stupid YouTuber. Who would? So, I have been asked to create a signature instrument with companies, and advance money has been thrown my way to the tune of dollars where I would I was in shock that they went that high. And I turned it down. And it's because I believe that my business model is not consistent with that. I am not an artist, so I'm not creating. To me, part of signature for me isn't just that you have a popular channel or that you have an audience that is willing to buy stuff with your name on it. That's why I sell merch. Merch is, to me, is a delivery system of donation. That's how I like to think of merch on my channel. A lot of the limited run stuff I do, that's, like I said, a delivery system of donation. In other words, you want to support my channel like a patron, like a member. Some people, maybe are more likely to support by buying a t-shirt or a guitar stand or something, or a limited edition pedal or something that I work with a company with, and that, that's supporting what I do here. And I'm giving you some great product, and I'm not adding any royalty to it because, again, I don't want a royalty. I just want to negotiate the deal with the company. When I did this Kiesel Delos, this was the closest I ever came to a signature type instrument. In other words, I worked with Kiesel to develop the Delos the way I wanted it. I was paid $0 for this because I wanted no signature on it. Not that they offered, but I didn't want any signature on it. And also I didn't want a royalty fee because I didn't want to add to it. I just wanted anybody who get one like it. And one of the downflaws, one of the flaws or problems with a signature product, which is another reason why we did not do any kind of official signature product. Again, not that Kiesel offered, but I'm just saying reason why we didn't even kind of talk about that is the Delos, though, even though I spec'd out the Delos the way I wanted it, you could order that guitar right now in any variation, including like, hey, you want it totally your way, but with the color I chose, or maybe you don't want that color. And if signature guitars tend to be like, you have to do it this way, right? You have to do it the way the agreement was made with that artist. So back to why somebody would leave a company. Obviously, we have the advance could have ran out. We can have the product has not been selling. So therefore, either way, they're not getting paid, so they want to move on. Could be because, like I said, they're fatigued with playing a signature instrument that gets a little old and tiresome. Maybe they like the guitar they're playing, a non-signature instrument, and they just don't want to feel like they have to play the signature instrument, especially if that thing's not paying a big royalty to them. It could be the opposite. Chapman could have said, hey, we really need to cut back on sponsorship dollars. We can't really afford to do this based on what we're getting. Who knows? Hold on. So those are reasons why somebody would leave. And of course, there is just a transition to the bigger and better brand theory. We talked about a couple weeks ago about if Joe Bonamassa went with a company like Heritage, he would level up that brand, in my opinion, putting the, wow, Bonamassa went from vintage Gibsons and Gibsons to Heritage might be a big thing for Heritage. It could work the opposite way. You could have an artist like a YouTube channel or a new up-and-coming artist that's just an artist go with a bigger brand name. He might pop. I mean, Schecter, of course, is a bigger brand name than Chapman. So obviously with Rob Scallon going to Schecter, that's a bigger brand. More importantly, and this ties into, I forgot who asked, but somebody said, I couldn't live on 6% of something. So let me explain that. That is the last thing that actually could be happening, which is they could be selling so many Chapman Rabea models that they can't keep up, and that's a detriment to him. This has actually happened many times with artists I'm even friends with and know, on a casual basis. They've had this problem where that's exactly the problem. They see a constant back order on their product line that they have a signature with, and they're looking at that royalty, which isn't a whole lot, but it's not a little, okay? And they're looking at money lost. So in other words, it's not anybody's fault. It's just maybe that guitar company, which is Chapman, couldn't get maybe more product built by the manufacturer. So for instance, let's say they got 1,000 orders for those guitars. Chapman can only fulfill 500. That's 500 unfulfilled orders. And the artist might go, hey, you know what? I need to go with a company who can produce more product. So that's another reason why you see guitar players go up to a bigger brand, is because they've also gotten notoriety. He's got a big following. He plays with Frog Leap, who's a huge artist that, the whole thing. I mean, he's really, when I think of artists on this platform that have really grown in a short period of time, manner speaking, and in a really big way, Rabea is one of the ones I think of. I mean, I actually think he's bigger than Chapman ever was, Rob was, and that's saying something because he's kind of like an offshoot of Chapman, and the idea that he started joining Chapman in videos, and you see that, like kind of like I saw Rhett Shaw for the first time with Beato, and then all of a sudden Rhett was kind of doing his own thing. I would be the same if I saw Rhett presumably outshine, grow Beato, and so I think Rabea's has gotten that. I think he seems bigger to me. Again, these are just my opinions of what I see, but those are reasons why that could be happening. So it's just not always like something is negative happening. Those are all the reasons why it would happen. Absolutely. We see it all the time with artists. The other thing that happens, so and it's just because this isn't to tap onto that, but just another thing that happens is sometimes artists make deals with other companies. Let me give you an example of that. This is, again, if an artist was to make a deal with another amp line or pickup line, and those companies don't get along with the company he's currently working with or she's working with, that's another reason why that will actually fracture that. That happens a lot as well. An artist that I know that has that I've talked to on YouTube was working out a guitar deal with a company and then worked out a pickup deal. And what ended up happening was that one of the deals fell through because one of the companies didn't like one of the companies. And so that's how that worked. And in their case, what they chose not to work with one of the companies. They said, okay. In other words, and to keep it easy, because I don't want to kind of tell too much, because obviously it's not my it's not my privilege to tell you, but I can tell you a scenario that would make sense. They were with a brand, and they went to link up with another brand. The brand they wanted to link up with didn't like the current brand they're with, so they decided to pass because they're going to stay with the current brand they're with for the basically parts they were getting for their instruments. So that has a lot to do with it as well. So that is some of the reasons why this could be happening. And that's just a couple, like I said, just with no information. That's just some of the scenarios that happen daily in this industry that mean nothing. So means nothing. So there you go. And as far as I know, does anyone know, is he still with Victory, isn't he? Isn't he still with Victory Amps? Is Rabea with Victory Amps? Because Victory Amps, I thought, was still owned by the Andertons guys, right? So that's what I was told. So who knows? So there's still a connection there with the brands, I would imagine. But again, I don't really keep up on this stuff. If it gets in my feed, it gets in my feed, or you guys bring it up to me here. Okay. All right. All right. Hope that was some insightful information. And I can tell you, it was kind of like a PTSD moment for me for all the times I've had to negotiate those. They're the worst things to negotiate, the deals with artists and companies, in my experience, what I've had help with. Simon says he's starting a clothing company too. Sure, that's that makes a lot of sense. And again, that ties on to the royalty thing. Somebody's like, I couldn't live on 6% of something. I have friends in this industry that get royalties of 4% and 3%, and that's a 6-figure income, side hustle. The internet is big numbers. I kind of, like I said, I try not to, I'm not going to say anything that's privileged that I don't want to say because it's a private conversation with somebody. So I always use myself as an example. I have 100 million views and I'm just a good gear channel. So I mean, imagine if I converted 1% of those views into some kind of revenue stream, what that turns into. And so you can imagine what it's like if they have multiples. And keep in mind, it's not just, you guys sometimes think of, and again, I only say this because it's something I do every day. Sometimes people think of YouTubers, but don't realize they're on also Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. All those are revenue streams. Then there's other platforms, Twitch, other things they're on, and all those are revenue streams. And then of course, anything that's attached to them is revenue streams. So it's not uncommon for somebody with a platform to have 30, 40 revenue streams coming in. So there you go. Yeah, Brian says Rabea is still on the Victory Artist webpage. So that tells you a lot there. I think that if you really want to know more to the story without knowing the story, it would be interesting if he leaves Victory, because the Victory is obviously, I believe, Anderson owns either half or all of Victory or a piece of it. There's some kind of connection there. So, I don't think there's any kind of bad blood. Doesn't seem like it to me. But again, that's kind of more the rumor stuff. I'm not really interested in that. I'm more interested in what we talked about. Why would an artist leave? There's a lot of reasons. These are the most logical ones. So, yeah, and so CS is saying that he said he watched the video. A lot of speculating, but they claim there's no bad blood. I don't think so. Look, again, I like to have a channel like this where we talk like adults that aren't children that talk about rumors. I will tell you this. I was offered once $10,000 as an advance to do a signature product. So I only tell you that because I wouldn't have offered that up before. I only tell you that to give you a real weight. To me, the way I perceive my brand value, I hate using that term, but it's just, it applies to this conversation. My brand value is having a Know Your Gear channel or whatever you want to call it, or podcast or whatever. And an artist like Rabea, who I think is obviously accomplished a lot more than me in a bigger scope of things, okay? And not just in fan following and all this stuff, but just in the scope of things as an artist. If I'm worth that, which I don't know if, and so you guys know, I don't know if that was a high, is that high for what I was worth? I don't know if was I worth a lot more than that? It didn't matter because like I said, I'm not doing a signature product. So what I can tell you is from an offer like that, I could imagine, he could make a lot more money with a bigger product line or a newer product line or going that route too. But I don't think that could be it too. It could be just literally he likes to play a guitar he likes. He might have a relationship with a brand he likes and he just wants to play their guitars. I also can tell you, I've seen the opposite. I've seen artists that literally don't take the money. It's not about money for them. So, personal conversation, I'll tell you only my side. And I just, because I think he deserves the compliment. To me, one of the artists that I think of on YouTube platform as someone who has what I consider an ethical, like he's ethical in the way he thinks, and is Pete Thorne. Pete has a signature guitar. He has a signature amp. He is loyal to his guitar. He's loyal to his amp. He loves it. He talks about it all the time. And I will tell you this. I told him this. I'm not going to tell you what he said. I'm going to tell you what I said. I told him, I said, do you know how much more money you would make if you would just do what guys like me are doing, these reviews, and the gear demos and stuff. I mean, he doesn't do reviews, he does demos, but his demos, if he would do demos, because he doesn't do a lot of demos that aren't just pedals and basic things. He stays away from guitars and amps for the most part because he has his own signature stuff. He likes having signature stuff. No, he really likes Sir. He really likes his instruments. He really likes them. He takes them with him everywhere. He's proud of what he's accomplished with them. And I'm telling you, as someone who's privy to this industry in a lot of ways, he could make a lot more money not being a signature artist with Sir. Absolutely. And I'll even tell you how that conversation came up, so it's not just weird conversation we have. We were on a bus going from probably some event to a hotel or a hotel to some event, and I was telling him that he should do a video where he puts like Thornbucker pickups in a Made Mexico Strat and do that and demonstrate them in a video, how good they sound in that Strat, and he'd sell a lot more pickups. And I was just kind of like, any person who admires someone, I was just saying, hey, not even have you thought of this, but hey, I, as a gear junkie, I would like to watch this video. So if you made it, I would watch it and others might watch it too. And he basically was not really interested in that idea for the purpose of he really just wants to play the guitars and the amps, and that's not really a high focus for him. He just wants his product. And the point is that it wasn't about selling product to him is what I'm trying to get to. He wasn't like, yeah, I know I can sell more stuff, but he really just loves what he has. That's really what it's about. He always wanted his own guitar, his own amp, his own pickup. So if people want to buy them, that's great, but it's not about selling them to him. To him. It's not about the money he can make. And I tell you that not only because he said that, but also because I can confirm that, because as someone who does this for a living, I could tell you he could make a lot more money if he did the way everybody else is doing it, not the way he's doing it. He's also aware of that too. So I just tell you that because, again, sometimes it's so easy to go to, there's some kind of bad blood out there. There's 1,000 reasons why these things happen. And I hope it's going to be something exciting. I'd like to see Rabea with Strandberg, or because I like the Strandberg guys. I'm actually excited. I hear stuff like that. I go, the truth is, I like the Chapman guitars. I reviewed one. It was pretty good. I've played a few here and there. It's not something that's on my radar to buy as a purchase, but maybe another brand, maybe with Rabea, maybe that's something I would buy. So, okay. All right. Okay. What else do we have? Brandon wants to know, do I have any New Year's guitar or gear resolutions? Last year was to do no apps. I think I made it. It's every company has an app. They're so bad that now they get me on the whole. I even had this recently where a company sent me product on a product I just never assumed would have an app. And then it had an app, and they were like, oh, we need you to demo the app as well. And I was like, oh, I can't do it. I can't do an app. I just can't do it. So that was last year's. What's this year's? This year is to take more time off, but work harder when I'm working harder. I feel like this year I didn't take any real time off. I mean, I did some, and I'm happy because I used to not take any time off, but I'm happy that I took some time off. But I kind of feel like I should have took more time off. And I also feel like I worked too many hours this year, but that isn't a reflection of necessity. It was really the work ethic and how I was working. In other words, I wasn't working hard enough, so I had to spread my work over more time. So my resolution for 2023 is to work harder, or maybe smarter, doesn't matter. Work harder during the hours I'm working, and and have more kind of physical. It's physical. I just have more serious. Like, this is the time I stop working, and this is the time I start enjoying myself. And then, like I said, get more work done, especially with what's coming next year. I have a lot of stuff already on my plate for next year. So that's January will be the big month. I saw a bunch of channels are like, we're taking January off. I'm like, I am going to be putting out more work in January than I probably did any month in 2022. So every company wants a video in January, it seems like. Okay. Work hard, play hard. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Let's grab some more questions. This is fun. Let's see. Brian says, Lee Anderton owns part of Chapman's for sure. Can't find records of Victory. Yeah, I don't know if he owns part of Victory. So, I heard, I was talking to an amp builder in the U.S. who was talking to Lee one night, and he said that he had some kind of connection to Victory. Again, it doesn't matter if he does or not. I was just saying that the Victory guys seem to be ingrained with the Anderton guys to some point. So I'm saying it's all connected. They're at least all friends at the very least. It doesn't matter if they have ownerships. So, I mean, if it's that important, we could actually find out. It's easy to see who owns a piece of what. But Tony G says, it would be interesting to know what the average age of viewers on Phil's channel is. I can tell you exactly how old all the people on this channel are. And I can tell you the more important thing, when they're on, because not all the ages interconnect. So the majority of the people on this channel are in their 40s. That is my Google Analytics. That is the crossover age. So I see the most of them throughout the videos. But for instance, I can do a video where I could have predominantly 20 and 30-year-olds, mostly 20-year-olds. And then I have a video where I have mostly 60-year-olds. Has to do with the title. Interesting thing is it's not just the channel, it's also the interest. Obviously, when you review a $3,000 Paul Reed Smith, you're not pulling in a whole lot of 18-year-old kids going, I can't wait to buy one of those. That's just not the market. But if I show you how to fix a Squire, I'm going to pull in a lot of, I tend to pull in, when I do repair videos, you tend to pull in a lot of the what I call the V, which is I'm going to get a lot of teenagers, a lot of young teens and 20-year-olds who are obviously in a financial situation where fixing things are, if you don't have money, you got to learn to fix stuff. So, or fix stuff up, better yet. So they'll watch a video because they want to, and then I get a lot of older guitar players because, again, retired players have more free time. Free time equates to why not fix stuff or fix things up, right? A lot of times if you're working 6 days a week, you're not really in the mood to go, hey, I can't wait to start working on something. But that's not always true. I'm just giving you general numbers so I can tell you that's how that works. And the same thing with the female audience. They come in. The female audience is the biggest on the podcast. It's that's been growing. That's new. That's a recent thing in the last recent year or two. But that's the majority. If you look at the analytics for female participation, it's in this. So I don't know why. I'm sure it's because they love my amazing backgrounds. Anyways. So yeah, so it can tell, like I said, you can look at analytics and it'll tell you everything from the age groups you're participating in. Of course, what I tell everybody is this: if you ever want to know who's watching all the guitar videos, I will tell you exactly how to figure that out. You don't need any Google Analytics. Go to YouTube, type in NAMM any year you want. I don't care what year you put in NAMM show 2020, NAMM show 2016, NAMM show 2006. Find a video NAMM and look at who's walking around the NAMM show, and that's the demographic. There you go. That's pretty much what it is. Okay. Let's see. What else? That's what he says. I'm 55 going on 12. So. Telly Driver says, Phil, of those amps behind you, are any of them troublesome? I hate that question. Here's why. Because I got to give you the honest answer, but I feel like the honest answer might have a curse. I've never had a problem with an amp. Like, I've never had an amp tons and tons. I've seen it tons of times. Obviously, for the part of my life where I own a music store, there's this, that's what you see. A lot of broken amps, coming in, repairs. But me, I've never blown an amp up. I've never had an amp just like quit or die on me. The problems I've always had with amps, because I live in Arizona, so is always crackly potentiometers, so you got to clean those out, and tubes, some kind of problem with the tube. Obviously, I bought a Supersonic a couple weeks ago or a month ago, and it had an issue. It was brand new, but that was a brand new amp. So I'm like, an amp, out of the box having a problem, sure. But these are amps like I've been using and use on a pretty regular basis. And I'm pretty abusive to, I don't do a whole lot of I wish I did. I just don't have a whole lot of I don't, kid gloves on stuff. If I use something, I use it. So they all take a good amount of abuse, in my opinion. I had 2 preamp tubes blow out and burn up in my Friedman twin sister, and they weren't marked, I don't think. So I kind of got the vibe they were probably hurry to get the twin sisters out, and they probably put whatever tubes they can get on them. That's when the tube shortage was really at the height, and that's when I bought that amp. But no, everything seems pretty fine. I've had no issues with any of them. But, now that I said that, they all break tomorrow. So, but keep in mind too, I'm in a really perfect environment for things. Arizona's hot, so heat can be really a problem, but dry air isn't really bad for these things. And, and if I transport stuff, I tend to put covers on them. All right. Cal Guitar Life said, "You ever update your Spark amp?" Nope, I got rid of the Spark amp because that I refused. Ralph gave me crap, told me he did it. It wasn't that hard. He plugged in the computer. I really like my Spark. I really stand by the quality of it. I kind of, like I said, I have the Joyo DC15, and I have the Yamaha THR32 V2, and I kind of feel like I'll stick with my original opinion. So, I mean, nothing's changed, what I mean by that. The Spark, I think, to me, sounded the best, but it was so bassy. That's the only thing I didn't like. It's just so bassy. But, I mean, you can dial most of that out. Other than that, I think the Spark sounded the best of all the amps. But I really just, like I said, I went and plugged in it one day, and it wouldn't update on my phone. It wouldn't do anything, and I had to do some update. And I was just like, I'm not going to do it. So, what happened with me is I probably went about 5 months, that's not exaggerating, by the way, without using the amp at all because of the fact that I still forgot to update it, and I don't use it because I can't use it because it's not updated. Because I told you what happened with me is I had to, for a video, clear out some presets, and then I went to put them back, and then it told me I had to do an update, and it wouldn't let me update anything, and the presets were all jacked up. And I couldn't get access to the stuff I wanted anymore. So that was my problem with it. It wasn't a defect in the amp. Just I didn't want to do that. Again, I don't want to have to update stuff. So this Kemper I love. Like I said, I've had it for about 2 years now, and it's still got the same 4 sounds that I'm using all the time. And if one day I turned it on and it told me I had to like get a new, whatever, and I plug it in my computer, I'd probably, same thing. It'd probably just sit and die. So, Steve wants to know, now that I've had the Bad Cat for a while, have I discovered any new settings or found anything frustrating? I'm really considering one of the new models. Nope, no issues at all. I've said this before. John, the owner of Bad Cat, he gave this to me. Like I said, this one's not even serial numbered. I wouldn't have picked the combo just because, as you can see, my rack is a lot easier just to run the heads into the cabinets I have in the bottom row. So I like the combo, and I think the combo combination sounds really good, maybe even better than the head cabinet combination. I can't really say that for sure, but it's kind of something I like, having the way it's set up that way. But I really would like to have the head. So like I said, my goal is to probably get the head and then maybe keep the combo and put the combo in the other room and just have the head. But I can't find any. They're hard to find right now. I think most of the dealers I keep saying say pre-order. So that's it. I really want the head. So, and I prefer it. I prefer the amp with the creamback speaker. So I prefer this running it into one of my creamback 112 cabinets over their Bad Cat speaker and even over a V30. And that's the speaker I like the best with this amplifier, the Bad Cat, Black Cat. I think all the speakers sound good, but I prefer the creamback. So that's another reason why I'd like the head, is because I'd like to just run it through my creamback cabinet. And that's just because, like I said, I like that cabinet, that 112. So. Michael says, you have all your guitars on a wall. Do you worry about humidity, or do you have some kind of humidity controls? I have no humidity controls in this room. I've never used any humidity controls or devices for any of my electric guitars. I use them on my acoustics. That's why some people ask me all the time, why is there no acoustics? Acoustics are in another room, and I have them usually in cases with some kind of humidity control. Although keep in mind, I don't use a lot of humidity control devices, as I've had no issues. I've never had like an acoustic crack or anything like that. So, I mean, I'm repaired enough to know that I can't just cavalierly say, don't worry about it. A lot of you need to worry about it. But I feel like with the guitars I've chosen over the years, they're good. Karen wants to know if it's open or closed back speaker cabinets. I have both. So what I have for speaker cabinets, it changes over the years, but what I have now is I have a Friedman 112 cabinet, the oversized open back with a cream back. That is the main cabinet that I like. I've been using that. It's kind of like my new flavor of the month. I bought that maybe a few months ago. I like it so much I just bought another one. Because I'll tell you that in a second. I'll tell you why. So a Friedman open oversized 112 cabinet. I like it because it's kind of like a clone of the 1973 Marshall 112 cabinet that they make that's insanely expensive, and I like the Friedman as much. And then I have what's called, you can't see it. I have it's labeled McKnight. It's a it's like a Mojo Tone 112 that's pine close back with a V30. That's a lot of times what you're hearing in the videos. I like that speaker. I like that cabinet. It's a closed back all pine cabinet. Then I have a 212 V30 right here that's Marshall, that's slanted. 212, so 112 up top, 112 up bottom. And then I have a horizontal 212 with V30s. And then I have another slanted 212 cabinet that is a Mojo Tone that I did a video for. And that had their version of the V30s, but I just felt like that was too many duplicates of the same cabinet. So now what that has is a Neo cream back in the top and a greenback in the bottom. So I guess and you know what? And if you don't stop me, which you guys can't stop me because there's nobody talking back to stop me. This could go on for another 10 minutes of the cabinets I have and the speaker combinations I have. And it's mostly because, like I said, if I'm doing videos, just all the reasons, it's just, there's a lot of gear that exists here because of YouTube. I mean, I make hundreds of videos a year. So, I mean, you acquire stuff for your YouTube videos. But, I guess the question for that would be interesting to know is if I could only have one cabinet, what would it be? I'm really in love with that Friedman 112 with the creamback oversized. So, you know, that's what happened on Christmas Day. My wife and son put together the Lego Starry Night Legos, and my daughter put together the Ghostbusters vehicle, you know, the Ghostbuster mobile. And I told you I don't do that, but I like to buy them Legos. So I buy all the cool Legos for the year, and then that's what they do on Christmas, like putting puzzles together. And I drink wine, and apparently I did not know, because this year we really upped the Lego game. These 2,000 piece Lego sets take 4 or 5 hours, 6 hours to put together. It is for many, many hours. I enjoyed it sitting on the couch. I drink wine, and I drink a lot of wine. It's really good wine. And I bought a Friedman 212 and a 112 cabinet. That's what I did. So to answer anyone's question, no one asked me like what I got for Christmas or what I do during Christmas or all that stuff, but that's what I did. I drank some wine and I bought a duplicate 112 cabinet because I liked that cabinet so much. I wanted one in here where I make YouTube videos and in my personal rig in the bedroom. And then I wanted the horizontal 212. I also should point out I sold some cabinets. So again, like I said, nothing can come if something doesn't go. I don't have enough space. So, all right. Yeah. Yeah. Devin says Legos are nighttime landmines. Yeah, it's just really cool, man. I like that they like doing it. And I like that it's peaceful. It's a nice, peaceful tradition. We do it every year as a tradition at Christmas. Our tradition right now is we have a charcuterie board and wine thing with some friends before Christmas, and then on Christmas they do Legos. Seems to be what we've been doing for many years in a row now. Yeah, some of us drunk shop all year long. Yeah. All right, let's get back on track. Too much Lego talk. All right. Let me refresh this. All right, Antique Rocker says, Christmas gift project guitar, a J Tercer resonator with a trashed nut. I've ordered a Graphtec nut, Lock and Grover tuners, headstock design sucks. Should I try to find a replacement neck? You can. However, one thing that if you have resolved to get a new neck, that means, you're going to toss the old neck, so to speak, because you're not going to put it on anything else. I would highly suggest, unless it's a time issue. I mean, obviously, if you don't have the time to spare, don't waste your time. But if you have time to spare, might I suggest taking a neck that you may not like and trying to reshape it with some sandpaper. You don't have to have any heavy tools or anything. Even the headstock design, right? Mess with it. Drill new holes. Change it. Just here's why. Just keep doing it. Shape the neck a little bit differently. Shape the headstock a little bit differently. Drill new holes. Dowel the old holes. Make it your own. And what's great about it is, let's say it's like you get to the end and you're like, I'm not loving this. You can always get a new neck. But those, to me, I like it when I've because here's why. I would never give that advice to somebody's like, hey, I'm thinking about taking a made in Mexico neck off my Strat and putting a made in USA one. Should I, and I'd be like, yeah, reshape it, destroy that neck. No, that neck has value, sell it or keep it in case you ever put it back or whatever. But, when you have the opportunity like that, take that opportunity. Some of the best educations you'll ever get is that, better than anything else. Just trying to do something on your own, working through the project, learning about it. Do it. And then what's great is no stress, because if it doesn't work out, you already know what your plan is. You have your plan B, which your plan B is new neck. So the sign on is my farts smell bad. That's just some honesty in that, I guess. It says, Phil, no questions. I've just joined. I've joined live just to thank you for the time and effort spent making great content and for the community. Greetings from Slovakia, Europe. Oh, greetings from Slovakia. See, if I say it once, I'm good. And as soon as I say it twice, I jack it up. Litface says, Happy New Year, Phil. Still would love to hear about the P90 you make. What were you going for? Would they work on an Epiphone Casino? They would work on an Epiphone Casino. So the full moons that I make, and I've said this before, the P90s are just based on a standard Gibson P90. There's nothing special there. So I said this before, when I made the Northern Lights pickup, I wish I designed it. I didn't. It's somebody who I know. I would say friend, but it's more like acquaintance that I know. We didn't hang out. I know and respect him. He made these pickups. I bought them. I put them in my guitars. I love them. He decided that there was no money in making pickups and stopped making them. I then got him to show me how he made them and started making them for myself. That's why I wasn't really interested in selling them, because not for any reason that I was just like, it was just something I was after for me. The funny thing about that was, then I, on my own, created this pickup called the Copperheads, which is a single coil, something I was seriously having trouble with, where I was really unhappy with a lot of single coils, so I made some single coils. When I started the project of selling the Blackstock pickups, the thought was we were going to sell a lot of Copperhead pickups because it was the most unique of the pickups I was offering. I didn't really want to offer Tellies and P90s because, that wasn't something, I didn't think I had anything to give. If you can't do something better than somebody else, then don't do it. In other words, I didn't have anything that the market wasn't already fulfilling. And somebody asked me as a favor to do some P90s. I did them, and they liked them a lot, and they bought another set. And then I don't know how it happened, but I ended up having to make a couple sets. And so I put them on the website and we sold out. So I ended up selling a lot of P90s. In fact, it's the second highest selling. The humbucker is the most, the P90s is the second, and the single coils are the least selling of all the pickups I do. And I like the P90s. Of course, they're quality. I'm using quality components and I'm putting them together in a very good way, traditional, proven way, but they are not special. They are as good as most of the P90s in the market. If I was AB them in I don't think you would hear anything from any other quality P90 pickup. Maybe mine has less bass or more treble or whatever. I mean, but we're talking about quality, not sound difference. Just sounding a little different isn't enough to be, like, oh, I got more highs in mine. I mean, who cares? So that's why, like I said, I don't really push on them too hard. But like I said, pickup news is exciting stuff in February. So like I said, everybody hold out till February. All right, Derek says, Phil, you've had them both. Can you compare and contrast Two Rocks versus the Amplified Nation build quality tone mojo? Sure, of course I can. I like the Two Rocks. They sound great. They look cool, I guess. That's the factor. But they sound great, and there's a little bit of that like John Mayer vibe going on with them because he had one or has one. When Amplified Nation sent the overdrive reverb, I didn't know what to expect, and I did that video, and I think the thing it hit in me is the same thing it hit with most of you guys, which is it just sounded really good, and I don't want to say the Amplified Nation's better, and the reason why is because here's why, because that isn't something that I think is fair to say. What I mean by that is if you have a Two Rock right now, depending on what model you have, a Two Rock, and I said, oh man, Amplified Nation's better, and you were to sell that Two Rock and get the Amplified Nation, I would not be on the hook for that statement, because I don't want you to email me going, hey Phil, I got the Amplified Nation and I like it, but I don't know if it's better. See, so I can't say it's better. What I can say though is I prefer it, because if you want to know the truth, here's the absolute truth. I sold my 2-rock. It is gone. That's why it's not in the rack. You can look on my reverb store. I sold it. I got $3,000 something for it, which is the going market rate for it. I sold it, and I decided to have an Amplify Nation amp. I sometimes make those decisions that I've said in the past. Sometimes I make decisions based on friendships and alliances, with companies that I meet. That's not what happened in this case. I preferred this amp to the 2-rock, and I was not going to have 2 expensive Dumble type amplifiers. I just can't. I can't afford it. Sure, but also space. This is the rack. You guys see it from head to toe. These are my amps, and then there's a few others spattered around, like one in the other corner of this room, and then one in my bedroom. There's a few others, but there's not double this. What you're seeing is the majority of what I have. So you can see what's gone, what stays. So the overdrive reverb to me was what I liked. I preferred it to the 2-rock. It did a lot of things that the 2-rock did, which is that cool clean and the cool dumbly thing and whatever I kind of hate talking that language because, like I said, no one still knows what a dumble is in the grand scheme of things, but it doesn't matter. What matters is in the extremely expensive amplifier market, I prefer this one. But I have to tell you, I've got a video coming soon of another Amplify Nation amp, and it's really good. It's really good. So something to think about too. It's a different kind of amp though. Different kind of amp. So there you go. That's to answer your question. I don't think it's better than the 2-rock, but I prefer it. But the preference is, like I said, it seems like it has. I like the features it has. And to get the 2-rock that has more of the features like this amp, or would be more like this specific model, that 2-rock would even be way more than this model. So that's something to factor in too. So it doesn't feel like Amplify Nation is less expensive than 2-rock, but it kind of is when you really add it up to. And in this price range, I don't think pinching pennies is a thing that you should worry about, but it's a value proposition like everything else. So that's what I prefer. So I like it. I really like it. He's really sold me. the Taylor at Amplify Nation. He's really sold me on what he's doing. I have to say, out of all the amps I've ever owned in my life, the Bad Cat, the Friedman, and the Amplified Nation have been the 3 amps that have really, really, more so than any Fender I've owned, which I love Fenders, my Marshalls, the Ingle. I mean, again, there's a Soldano up here. Fantastic amps. I've owned many great amps. I own many great amps. I've played a ton of great amps. There's a lot of things I can say, but for some reason, the Bad Cat, the Friedman, the Amplified Nation amps really speak to me on a lot of levels. I'd like to point out, like I said, and that tells you a lot. Bad Cat, like I said, John was very kind and gave me that amp. I bought the Friedman. The Amplified Nation amp is a longer discussion, but but anyways, the whole point is, like I said, so there's not just a fact. What I'm saying about that is it's not a factor like these guys gave me amps and that's why I like them. I mean, it's not just as simple as that. I like what I like. And that's why sometimes when we talk about amps, which is why I'm still trying to get a Fender Supersonic 22 again in my inventory here, because the reason I want the Supersonic 22 is it's a really good amp. I mean, I could say it's as good as these amps in a lot of ways. Some ways not, but more importantly, I don't want to do reviews with a $3,000 amp. You know what I mean? To me, it's not what most of us are in the market for. So everybody's got a different sickness. I guess we'll call it a sickness. Okay. Okay, hold on a second. All right, let's go to the next one. Just because it's on the subject, I think it's Ritesh says, how many amps do you own? You're looking at, like I said, most of them right now, because the bottom row is cabinets. I mean, there's a Fender combo right there. So obviously I have 2 Fender combos now. I have a 5E3 that I built. I have the Ingle. Behind the Ingle is a Dr. Z. I don't want to add them all up right now because it's kind of boring. Like a dozen. There's a dozen amps. And again, I always point this out. There's amps, like I said, there's amps that are here because, you know, I want them, so I have them. And there's amps that are here because they fit the channel and what I do, you know, and they have a, Vim says the Mark 525. Yeah, I have the Mark 525. It's in the other room. So right now that's what I'm using as the practice amp in the other room. I change all the time. I was using the Bad Cat. In fact, I'll tell you, I was using the Bad Cat as my practice amp in the other room. I brought it in here because I wanted it on the shelf because we're doing the video, and I thought that'd be a better looking amp to put on the shelf than what was on there before, which was the Fender 65 Deluxe, which is down there. So I swapped them. But yeah, I've been using the Bad Cat. So, and I'll say this over again. I don't use a switching system. I don't switch between amps. I pick an amp and I play that amp until I'm sick of that amp. And then when I'm sick of the amp, I put it away and I play a different amp for a little while. That's just how I do it. I've loved the idea of trying to get to one amp. Before I had a bunch of amps, I had a 1 amp or 2 amps and a bunch of pedals. To me, it's the same. I just don't have I made a decision somewhere during this journey on the YouTube channel to get rid of a ton of pedals. I used to have like hundreds and hundreds of pedals. Some of you guys long viewers know that. Now, all my pedals combined, if I was going to say how many pedals I have, I'm looking because they're kind of in the corner. I probably have 20 pedals, maybe 25 pedals. That's a lot of pedals, but not like what you guys are used to seeing on YouTube. So I have about 20 pedals. Think about this. My amps, I have just a few more pedals than I have amps, because I mostly just switch between the amps now. Okay. This is where, like I said, I like having the podcast and talking about this stuff, but it's also a little tough because, like I said, some of this stuff has to do with the fact that I have an amp that I'm playing for my own personal enjoyment, and then I have an amp I'm playing to make YouTube videos with because, obviously, you know, like for instance, I like to use the Engel for the high gain in YouTube videos because this amp is half the price of the normal high gain amp I would use, and I don't think a lot of people are in the market for a crazy expensive high gain amp. So, plus we talked about this. I tend to use comparable products. So if I'm reviewing a $400 guitar, I don't use a $3,000 amp. I use a $500 amp. So there you go. All right, let's get to the next question. And I have no problem talking about this stuff. I just don't want to bore anybody. Let's see. Sarang says, Happy New Year, Phil. Based on what you've been able to see so far for reviews, etc., what brands are the most exciting in 2023? So absolutely, without a doubt, I think in 2023, now I don't know all of them. I'm just going to, you said, based on what I've seen, Ibanez and PRS are going to do huge in next month. PRS is leveled up. They did exactly what everybody wants. The only thing, there's no telly. You know, a lot of people were talking about the rumors, not telly. Like I told you, I won't tell you what PRS is announcing next month because I'm privy to it. But I can tell you what they're not announcing. That's how I look at it, I guess. Maybe that's a horrible way to look at it. There is no telly in the lineup that I saw, and I'm pretty sure what I seen was the entire lineup of new PRS product for next month. Obviously, it's the 10-year anniversary of the S2, so there's some anniversary guitars coming that are cool. I don't want to tell you specific things about that, but they're cool. There's, of course, some cool core stuff. There's some new colors. There's some new stuff. And, of course, the SEs, I think, is what everybody's excited. Of course, everybody knows the DGT's coming. And then there's something else besides that. There's a couple models besides that are coming that are going to be really cool. I think those will be cool. I think that's really exciting. I can tell you that one of the things I'm excited about the SEs is the necks are right. You'll see when you see the deep dives, they really nailed the necks. Not something that I've seen SE really do before. If you think about it, SE has been really always never close to the necks. In other words, if the core had a wide fat, the SE had a wide fat, but it wasn't the same wide fat. Or if it had a wide thin, it wasn't the same wide thin. These models that I have put my hands on for the deep dive are the closest SEs I've ever played to being the same feel and shape of the necks of the cores. So I'm not saying they're dead on, but I'm saying they're closest. Obviously even closer than the Silver Sky, because you know the Silver Sky was close, but not the same as the core neck, which is good and bad. But that was really cool. Ibanez, I got some guitar I'm doing for Ibanez is really cool and crazy. And of course, there's a new brand of guitars coming out that I'm involved with in some way. Involved with means exactly that. I had some hand in its development. That comes out the middle of next month, called Badlands Guitars. So I'm excited about that. I'm allowed to tell you guys that stuff now. So that's cool because, like I said, I had feedback in the development of this guitar, so that was really cool. And it's unique and different, and not in a world of how it's hard. So there's some cool stuff, and there's a guitar. If I was going to oversell one of the guitars, there's a guitar that I am still scratching my head with. There was a guitar that I'm reviewing in January that was supposed to come out in December to show you guys, but I couldn't release the video because I just had this creepy feeling that something was off with it. It's too good to be true. It was definitely, if there's a too good to be true guitar, this is the guitar. And what's great is the too good to be true part is it's super cheap. It's too cheap. Too cheap. I had every friend I've had come over my house in the last month and a half play it in length, and all determined the same thing I did. It is just too cheap. In other words, the price point is way too low for what you're getting, which is good. But that sometimes makes you nervous, because what are we missing? Why is it so inexpensive when the quality seems to be there? Why does everything seem right? And I feel like I have done the due diligence, which is the due diligence is not only the deep dive that I did and all that stuff. I've put enough hours on it. I've played it enough. Like I said, I've abused, whatever concerns we had, I think we played through them to see. But yeah, it's very inexpensive. To give you an idea, it's technically under $200, but it's under $300. We'll say under $300 because there's two versions, an under $300 version, under $200 version. So when you hear me talk so highly about a guitar that is under $200 and under $300, they have two models. It's really crazy to be that impressed by something at that price point. Karen says, Karen wants to know PRS acoustic or amps. I did not see any new PRS acoustics in the lineup. Again, like I said, if I did see them, I wouldn't be able to tell you. But if I did see them, I'd say I can't tell you. So I'm saying I didn't see any. So I didn't see any. Amps, there is no new amps that I saw because obviously it looks like they released the HRDX pre 2020, just a month ago. But they revised one of their older amps, it looks like, and so refresh on that, and so that's cool. I saw it was in the list, and it wasn't a new amp, so I kind of that was weird. But then I looked at it again, and I go, okay, it looks like they changed the look of it, maybe some of the specifications. So that's coming, but amp wise, that's the only thing I saw, and no acoustics. Okay. Ellen says, maybe they're selling it too cheap to kill the competition off. We definitely think it's a growth play, right? But here's what's important about that. Whenever you're dealing with a new brand, a new product, me personally, whenever I'm dealing, I should say because it's just my professional part of me. Whenever I'm dealing with a new product, a new brand, that seems too good to be true, I obviously don't want to be the face of that because I'll be one of the first videos to come out on this product, right? And I don't want everybody to be like, remember that scam guitar and then Phil McKnight said was good? I don't want to, see what I'm saying? It's very important. I don't have to, that's one of the nice things when you reviewing a Paul Reed Smith or a Gibson or a Fender or something, obviously you don't have to worry about, certain things, not entirely, but you understand less likely. But when it's a new brand, a new product, it's hard, even though I kind of look at reviews as exactly that. I'm just reviewing you and giving you my assessment of it in a video. I understand wholeheartedly why people attach, because I get it all the time. I get in emails all the time. People go, remember when you said I should buy this? And I'm like, I never said that in the video, but I understand what you're saying is maybe I said something in the video where I like something or I dislike something, but you get the idea. So I try to make sure that Joseph said SE Vela, no. There's no SE Vela. That would be cool, but it's not there. Okay. How are we doing? We're doing good. Let's stay focused on guitar stuff. Grumpy Guitar Mike says, Happy New Year to you and the family. Maybe 2023 will be a prosperous joyous and healthy in your home. Yeah, I hope so. I mean, it was, like I said, mostly a good year. Obviously, the wife had a surgery this year, was a little scary, but she's fine. And then overall, good. I have high hopes. 2022 was not a bad year by any means. So I'm hoping 2023 will be as good, if not better. And then Doug says, I'm excited about the PRS SEs coming out. I pre-ordered both from Sweetwater. Oh, so you know about, so there's more, there's 3 or 4, 5 new ones. 5 new ones. So how popular do you think it's going to be for PRS? I think it's going to kill. I think they're going to, like I said, the DGT seems to be, will the DGT be as big as John Mayer's Silver Sky last year? I don't know. But I mean, I'm just gauging your guys' audience. You know, I mean, I told you throughout these podcasts, I timestamp everything, and I have it in folders, and I can tell you what topics come up the most and all that stuff. And DGT's come up a lot this year as something you guys wanted to talk about. So I'm assuming guitar players want to talk about it, something they're probably interested in. So I expect it to do well for them. Volk Hammer says, hey Phil, is there any way to increase the tension on a volume pot? Hold on. Frustrating that the slightest touch reduces the volume. Thanks. Yes and no. So yes. Okay. So yes, there is higher friction potentiometers that you can buy. However, one of the things that you can do very easily, if you just want to, your issue is you just don't want to be able to turn it when you bump it. You can take a piece of foam, or you can take a piece of felt. Sometimes, you know, felt works just as good. You just cut it in a circle. Think of it like those 2 felt rings that go on your car battery, right? You know, those things right there to let you know that the green and the red. You can take a piece of felt like that, like a washer. You want to make it look like a washer. Pull off the physical knob, throw it under, and then put the knob on it. And so, or you can use a rubber ring. You know, a piece of rubber. So you understand where we're going with this. In my 5 things you don't know about the Fender Strat, I show that trick of using a piece of foam, cut it in a circle, cut the hole through it, drop it on, put the knob on. You see what's happening is the knob's going to compress that material against the body of the guitar, the pick guard, and then the knob will be hard to turn because it's kind of riding on that material. There's a ton of ways to do it. I use foam. You can use a piece of rubber. You can use a piece of felt. Yeah, exactly that. So, but yeah, any of those things work. I mean, you know, I've used them all, but for some reason I just always have foam. I've always done so many pickup swaps that I always have tons of pickup foam. And somebody just said use rubber washers, which is why I was saying that was great too. But I tend to use foam not for any reason than other than I have this material and I don't want to throw it in the trash can, right? So I'll go, how do I use this? So I have different ways I use foam. Like I've showed you guys, I showed under pickups and stuff. That's why I do it. I just have this stuff. Again, if you can not throw something away and put it to use, that's huge for me. That's something I really care about. So I'm less likely to go to the hardware store and buy something if I can figure out how to use something I have. JP says, love the chats. Would a P90 SG sound similar to my early 70s SG with mini hums, but without risking my number 1 of 30 years? No, it won't sound the same. Just the way that they sound is going to be different, but you can buy a new P90 SG and you can buy the P90 adapters. They're little adapter plates. You don't have to physically buy a P90 that's a humbucker P90. Just buy the P90 plates. Let me show you. Here we go. Okay, and I've done this in the past. I'm showing you on StewMac, but keep in mind, you can find them anywhere. It's just, I know StewMac has all this stuff. I tell you guys this before, I'm going to go back to me real quick. I tell you all the time, look, anytime you're looking for a part, trust me, go to StewMac first. Always go to StewMac to find it for resource purposes, okay? They're going to have a lot of these things. It's like, just go there, find the part. If you don't want to pay their price, I understand that. I don't work for them, so I don't, right? I'm just telling you, this is how I resource, and then go and find it. Once you have a part number or a specific, more articulate description, then you can go and find it and source it somewhere else if that's what you want to do. But back to this. Here's what you want. it looks like this. This is what I would suggest you do. Go ahead and get yourself one of these P90 adapter plates. Right here, you can see that StewMac wants almost $9 for one. That's okay. Comes in black, comes in cream, and then you buy the mini humbucker and drop it in there. And not a huge expense. You figure 2 mini humbuckers and plus add another $20 for those adapters. Drop them in your modern SG, and you have your old SG with mini humbuckers. These don't have to be just for SGs. You can use these for any plates, or any plates, any kind of guitar. You can use those adapter plates. So. And there you go. And so, it's really not usual to see the cream ones out in the wild. They usually see the black ones, so be aware of that. That's what's great about StewMac. They'll have the cream ones right there, but a lot of times it's harder to get the cream-colored adapters. Hold on a second. Okay. Hold on. Peter says, "For it was written, go to StewMac." There you go. They, I will, if you use, I have links, but hey, just so you know, if you use the link, just because I'm getting, maybe that's a resolution for next year. I'm really horrible at telling you guys this stuff all the time. I have a link down below. If you click the StewMac link down below, I get a percentage of what you buy at StewMac. It's an affiliate link, just like it's Sweetwater and Reverb and Amazon. All those links pay fees to the channel. So just letting you know, don't do it if you don't want to. Like I said, just like what I tell you, StewMac, call and get a deal for yourself. Put the money in your pocket. They'll give you more. They'll put more money back in your pocket than they'll give me a percentage for. So I always tell you guys that. If I obviously I want you to keep your own money. You worked for it, but also if they were giving us the same amount of money, that would be one thing. They're not. The percentage I make is far less. There's no. The lowest discount they'd probably give you is 10%. Trust me, I don't make anything close to 10% on a Sweetwater purchase. So if you can get 10% off your Sweetwater purchase, put the 10% in your pocket. don't worry about the pennies I get from them. But if you're going to click online and just do it blindly, hey, click my link. Might as well we get something out of it too. Okay, Peter says, tried a couple of lower price acoustics from Gibson. Martin, are these guitars worth buying or just cheap guitars with prestige attached? Well, they're obviously Martin. First, I want to separate those two guitars if we could, Martin and Gibson, because I understand why you want to put them together. I would put premium Martins and Gibsons together as a high-end quality guitars that have kind of the same market to me. However, in the lower price category, I think Martin is far superior in what they put out for Gibson. Martin is not just making their guitars like in Mexico and stuff like that. It's not just as simple as that. And like, hey, they cut the labor, they kind of ditch the OSHA regulations and they get a cheaper guitar. Martin actually has spent years developing, some man-made materials. I mean, they didn't develop them, but developing the use of them. And of course, using techniques to multi-layer necks and stuff. So to me, the question, like if somebody asked me, do I think some of the inexpensive Martins sound the same as the high-end Martins? I don't think they sound the same. They are reminiscent, but they don't sound the same. But they sound good in their own right. There's a lot of great things to say about those price-friendly Martins that I love. The only thing I'm not a big fan of the man-made material Martins is in where I live. Do not leave them in your car; they'll warp. The heat's just too dramatic here. But all that being said, I think Martin does a great job. Now, Gibson has some lower price. We're talking about Gibson, not Epiphone, right? Because Epiphone is going to be a different thing. But we're talking about the lower price Gibson guitars. Again, they don't sound anything like the more expensive Gibson guitars. Not like they don't sound because they're made cheaper. They're not as good. They're just made differently. I've played some of them. I really like them too. But I would definitely probably, me purchasing with my own money, I would probably purchase the Martin. And I was really impressed with the Gibson ones I tried, but I think a Martin is a way to go. Like I said, I would play any of the inexpensive Martins, no problem. I like them. I think they sound pretty good. And then to follow up on that last tail end of that part of the question is it just, prestige attached? Well, yeah, in the idea that if you're asking me, are you going to pay premium for the brand name and where you could get more for the same with an off-brand name? Sure. I wouldn't say they're the same sounding, and they're definitely not the same materials, but if you were to ask me like for a good price-friendly acoustic, two that come to my mind would be some of the inexpensive Martins that are, again, made up of man-made materials or multi-laminate designs that sound pretty good. But also I would say the Yamaha acoustics sound pretty good, that are, so those are really good too. Those are something I consider too. Another brand of acoustics that I like that are more price friendly are Seagull, which is also going to be Simon Patrick, Arts and Luthery, and Norman. So it's all the same company. So we talked about Godin before. So you have Godin. It's a Godin, Seagull, Simon Patrick, Le Patre. These are all the brands under that umbrella of that company. So the Norman ones, if you get the Norman ones over the Seagull, so you can find almost the same identical models sometimes with the Seagull and the Norman. Both are from the same company. And the Norman will have the paddle headstock that looks more like the Martin. You don't see those as much in the U.S. Those are more available in Canada, but you can still get them in the U.S. And but again, another great brand. And of course, there's tons of obviously I've reviewed tons. There's I like the Orangewood stuff. I like Takamine. I like Breedlove. I mean, there's a ton of great brands of guitars out there that I like. But I'm sticking to, if you're telling me you're looking at Martins and Gibsons, I'm giving you brands that I think give you that. Like, for instance, somebody's saying Takamine and Breedlove. I love Takamine. I love Breedlove. However, I like Taylor a lot too, and I would put those brands, Takamine and Breedlove, more in the Taylor camp to me. Okay. So and I'm not saying they're the same. I'm just saying that's your like customer logic. So if somebody says, I'm looking for a Taylor, what is more affordable range of guitars that would get me what, kind of what those specs are, what that does? I would say, okay, check out Breedlove or check out Takamine, check out that kind of stuff. If you're saying, hey, I like Martin, what would you look at? I would say, look at the Yamaha stuff, look at the Seagull stuff, and so on and so on. So that helps. Somebody said Guild. I would love to say Guild. I like Guilds, but I have not played the new Guilds. Guilds has changed hands many times. There was obviously Guild. There was Guild when it was Guild, and then there was Guild when it was owned by US Music Corp, I think, and then it was owned by Fender, and I think it's owned by Cordoba now. I don't know. I can't remember anymore, but it's a different person now. I have not tried any of the new ones. They could be great. Probably the best ones ever. I don't know. I've never tried one. I've never tried a current Guild. So even in my video recently, you saw a Guild because I have a Guild. It's not the new Guild. And again, the new Guild could be better. I don't know. I haven't tried it. That's what's tough when you physically change manufacturers and brands on the name moves, but the manufacturers and the brand and the company that owns them changes. I don't know. I can't give you any information. I feel like it's I can't just say because the brand it's good. David says, hey, I'm hoping to change my pickups on my Steinberger Spirit GT Pro Deluxe. It's an HSH configuration. Budget is below $200. Thanks. Don't forget used pickups. I always mention this a lot. Used pickups, you can save a lot of money. Don't forget looking at, don't forget to look for guitars. $200 is a little low for a guitar budget. In other words, looking for a guitar that you can pull the pickups out of. But $200 is a tough budget for HSH, but think about this. If you're assembling that from used guitar pickups, you can totally do it. Obviously, some people are going to probably mention Guitar Fetish. There's a ton of online companies now that sell affordable pickups that are really good that you can piece this together from. Me personally, I tend to look for used, DiMarzio used, Seymour Duncan when I'm trying to save some money. Just buy them used. Find somebody who's got a set that wants to get rid of them. And it's a good way to go. You just got to make sure you have enough lead wire that you can solder them up. And buy from a reputable place like Reverb. But if you're going to go Craigslist or whatever, what's great is grab a multimeter and you can test them. You'll know if they have a problem right away somebody will eventually they'll do it. It'll be in the comments. Somebody's like, oh, you just take a multimeter and meet some guy in a parking lot of a Guitar Center? Yeah, I would. I value my money, and I don't always trust everybody. So yeah, I might. I have enough experience sometimes that I know what I'm looking at, and I know most likely what things would be the problem. So if I can probably visually inspect the pickup enough and feel pretty confident with that. But if I didn't know things, you could put a multimeter on 2 wires and go, yep, this works, we're good. So there you go. Wes says, any thoughts on the Godin A5 Kingpin II with P90s? So to share, you know, I gotta tell you a weird thing about that guitar, the Godin Kingpin. The Godin Kingpin is one of the guitars on paper that is amazing. And I like it. I really do. I'm going to show it to you guys. And he's talking specifically, hold on, not just the Kingpin, but the Kingpin, what is it? 2. So let me make sure. So I'm sure this means it has 2 pickups. Yep. Okay. So I'll pull it up here. It's on the Sweetwater website. Let's go to it. It's a $915 guitar. It's made in Canada. And trying to find a... Why is it not... You think the picture would get bigger. Probably because we're in some kind of preview of it. There we go. So I like this guitar. I do not love this guitar. To me, the quality is there. I mean, there's no issue there. The neck feels good. I like the way the headstock looks. I like that it's made in Canada. I like Godin as a company for quality. I like a lot of things about this guitar. I like the way it looks. You know, if you're looking for that jazz box kind of thing, it's really cool. That all being said, it's not my favorite hollow body. They made it so light and so airy sounding. It sounds a little boxy to me, especially unplugged, but not as bad as plugged in. It's a good guitar. If you're thinking about getting it, I don't want to dissuade you from it. There's nothing I can say negative in the quality, which is what matters. It's one of those guitars I've tried over the years. Every time I'm like, yeah, for the money, you can't go wrong. But I always feel like they're just not there yet. They could have done something. I don't know what it is. Every time I play one, I feel like there's just something missing. But here's the tough part. Everything that I would tell you that's better than that I prefer over that, I shouldn't say better, prefer over that, is much more expensive. So there you go. Best, Warham says, best Klon clone to buy, price and sound considered. Well, you know, a couple things. One, I'm not a huge pedal guy, so I'm a pedal guy like everybody else, but not a pedal authority by any means. I'm not a huge Klon fan. I like Klons, but I don't love them. As you guys know, I had a real Klon, and when the prices got high, I got rid of it because it was not something that I was like, I didn't value it to keep, like, oh, this is, the holy grail of pedal tones. And here's what's funny about this. We've done this shootout with the Klon, the real Klon, and some Klon clones. And what we found is that when you compare them all, for some reason everybody picks the Klon. But when you don't put the real Klon in the mix, no one ever goes, oh, these don't sound right. So I would say my favorite Klon clones are, in no particular order, these two, but I'm going to say I like the Tumnis a lot, and I like the Vintage Tone Prometheus. I really like those two. I've had the Archer. I just recently got rid of it. It's a great pedal. It's great. And I say that because somebody's like, oh, I can't believe you're picking that over these two. I'm just telling you what I like. I don't know why I like those ones. I just do. I even like the Tumnis Mini more, I guess, because that's the one I liked more. So I like the Tumnis, either the full size or the Mini, and I like the Vintage Tone Prometheus. One of the things I didn't like about the Prometheus, the only thing I didn't like was the size. It's the same size as a real Klon, so it's kind of big, but now they're made smaller, and it's hard to tell when you're looking at pictures of them, but the new ones are a little smaller. They look the same, but they're smaller. Those are the two I like. So there you go. But I'd like to also point out, it's not a pedal a Klon is not a pedal. A Klon is one of those pedals that I do videos of. It definitely pulls eyeballs. People want you to talk about it. People are excited about it. I will say this, the difference between like this Dumble type amplifier and a Klon type product is, I'm not saying one's hyped. They're both hyped. But when I hear the Klon, I don't go, whoa. I go, oh, this is cool. I like this. The Dumble clone, I go, oh, I definitely get it. Like right away, I get what people are after. So, I don't know if that helps. But And I've reviewed, out of all the Klon type pedals I've reviewed, those are the two that stick out to me as the yes, get those. They also happen to be the least expensive of all of them, of the ones I've done. I know you can get ones that are even less expensive, but the Prometheus, and I think the Prometheus sounded more like the Klon, the original Klon, than the Tumnis does, but the Tumnis just sounds great. So, okay. Matt says, thank you for the years of shows and videos. Happy New Year. Not many people understand what it is to be guitarded. Yeah. In a good company here. Yeah, it's definitely a hard thing to explain to people. You know what's funny? I know it's gotta be tough to explain. It must be tough to explain why you watch it. It's hard to explain why we do it. You know, when you have to explain to people like, oh, I do this podcast where I talk about guitars. Like, oh. Not one person has ever said, that's cool. They always go, oh. Ray wants to know what the D28 Taylor's is. I don't feel there is anything like that. To me, Martin and Taylor are, you know, chocolate and peanut butter as far as I'm concerned. I'm a huge fan of both. Huge. I love Martins and I love Taylors. Probably the most out of guitars. Like I said, I'm a real big fan of Cole Clark's. That's another guitar brand I like. There's a brand I'm reviewing next month of expensive high-end acoustics that I had never heard of. And it was one of those, like, I got it. I was going through it and I was like, I was impressed, but I didn't know how impressed. And then, of course, when I started comparing it to some of my other high-end guitars, acoustics, I was like, wow, this is really good. And a friend came over who was a really big acoustic aficionado of mine. And when he saw the brand I'm reviewing, he knew what it was immediately. He was like, wow, I can't believe you have one of those. And I go, oh yeah, they sent it for review. So that being said, I'm as basic as, like, I really like Gibsons, Martins, and Taylors for acoustics. Those are like the three that I gravitate towards. Probably more so Martins and Taylors than Gibsons, and although I love those just as much. So to me, when you say like, what's the D28, you know, what's the of Taylors? I don't know. Unless you're saying what's the price point of them, that's that. But to me, Taylors, like, some people go, I hate Taylors. I like the way my Taylor plays. I play my Taylor the most. I have two Taylors. I actually play the inexpensive one more than the expensive one the most. It was still expensive, but not like the more pricey one. But to me, it's how they play. And the Martin is more how it sounds to me. So. So there you go. I hope that's something to go off of. There you go. Something to go off of. Okay. And then Billy wants me to know Happy New Year and thank you for being awesome. Hey, no one's ever called me awesome. I think that's new. Thank you. I feel awesome being called awesome. I just go with it. Somebody's saying Larrabee. Again, this is the hard part, right? There's so many great acoustics. I mean, we can go. It's just like electrics. Just go on for days. So. Somebody, Dougal Dog says, stick with the dump truck story. Yeah. Oh, so I got caught on the dump truck story. I didn't even tell you about this. It was kind of funny. This happened a few months ago. So obviously it's been a little while because it was hot outside when it happened. How did I get stuck on the dump truck story? How did I get caught? I went to Starbucks drive-through. I was on my way for some appointment. Stopped at the drive-thru. My standard drink is just coffee with cream. Seems like it's a hard thing to order at Starbucks. I know it sounds silly. It's a very old man thing to say, but it's a very hard thing to order at Starbucks. It's just, I like a hot coffee with cream. So they've actually messed it up because, and then told me it's the way I say it. Cause I'm always like, I'm afraid I get scarred every once in a while. I go, yeah, can I get a coffee with cream? And I'll say like a drip coffee with cream. And then I get this iced coffee and go, I don't want iced. I want it hot. And they'll go, you didn't say hot. I'm like, you have to say hot? I thought hot to me was default. Cold would be the extra, right? So I'd say, I want a coffee with cream and iced. You're right. Or iced coffee with cream. Like, I thought the descriptor would be just to have to differentiate that you don't want it hot. So long story short, I always go nervous ordering through the intercom at at the Starbucks for a coffee because I just want this basic thing, right? And if anyone's gone through the hell of this, I don't know what it's called, and I'm sure you guys, there's like some Starbucks freaks here that know what it's called, but they have a, instead of cream, they have this sweetened milk crap that they put in it. I forget what they call it. They always refer to it to something, but I don't want any sugar in it. So I just want like a coffee with cream, right? And then they go, and then sometimes they put the sweetened cream in there. And I'm like, so you got to be very like, so when I go order coffee, I'm like, I would like a hot drip coffee with cream with no sweeteners. And I feel like that's like, so I'm just saying it's a pain in the ass to order a cup of coffee at Starbucks. Like it should be the easiest thing to do at a coffee shop. It seems like the hardest thing to do. And heaven forbid they go, and how much cream? And I'm like, I don't know. 2 fingers. I don't know what the fuck to tell you. So anyways, why is the dump truck story? As you guys know, the dump truck story, some of you guys know the dump truck story. I tell coffee people apparently that I drive a dump truck. This happened to me. I was caught off guard. And I ordered my coffee. I pulled to the window at Starbucks. There's a kid. I don't know how old he is. Probably old enough to work at Starbucks. Anyways, he hands me the coffee. I hand him my card. And he says, he looks at me, hands me back my receipt, and says, have a good day driving your dump truck. And I was so caught off guard by it. My first instinct was, did I tell him I was driving a dump truck? Because I don't remember saying that. I don't remember saying anything, but I remember I was really, really focused on not screwing up a hot cup of coffee with a little bit of cream in it. So then I was like, when did I say that? And then I'm like, I don't remember. And then it dawned, and then he's looking at me still, and there's a little bit of smile and it's like a little twinkle in the eye. And I'm like, oh, he watches the show. But I was like, I wasn't sure. So it was weird. I didn't know that was, I didn't know that was I didn't think people at Starbucks play guitar apparently. So there you go. So the dump truck story, there's the reverse of the dump truck story. So, okay. All right. See, guys, Speedway gas station coffee. I can't do it. I can't do gas station coffees. I can't do any of that stuff. I know it's $1. Here's my problem. I usually get coffee in the afternoon. It's not a morning thing. So I don't go anywhere for coffee in the morning. I go in coffee in the afternoon. Coffee for me is like it's the midday hump. I'm like, a cup of coffee. If I drink a cup of coffee, just keep the day going. So, I'm afraid to go to a gas station or anywhere where I think that the coffee's been sitting there for 3 hours or 4 hours and it's all, so I'm not a coffee snob by any means, but I'm definitely not into burnt coffee. You get enough of that when you're in the Army. You don't need any more. It's like three things I don't like after the Army. Ready? I don't like bologna sandwiches anymore. I don't like burnt coffee, and I don't like the smell of burnt oil. I mean, it's not that bad, but it, hold on a second. Could be better. I just lost a screen. That just happened to me. Let me go back into it. I was going to tell you guys, usually when you hear somebody say something about the Army and food they don't want to eat, it usually has something to do with MREs. The MREs, when I went in, were great. They were, if you're an older veteran, you'll remember like the C rations and all that horrible food. I mean, the MREs weren't that bad, but when I went in the Army, I just tell you so you have a gauge of time. Clinton was president, and the Army's budget was nothing, and so MREs were expensive. So it was hard to get MREs. We got the sack lunches, and it was always rainbow bologna sandwiches. It was always like that. Just like I said, it was just too expensive to give us MREs. So There you go. Christian says, looking to get a Strat style single guitar, 3 single quotes. If you had to pick between a Ernie Ball Music Man Cutlass RS or a Silver Sky, which one would you choose and why? If you haven't played the Cutlass RS, could you speak to the Ernie Ball quality? I've played both those guitars. To me, both those guitars, the really focus to me would be on the, and here's what I mean about that. Whether you go with the Silver Sky SE and the Sterling Cutlass, or if you go with the Core Silver Sky and the Music Man USA Cutlass, I feel confident with both these scenarios, both those two models and those price points as being equal to what I'm going to tell you, which is, to me, it's all about the neck. They both sound good. They both feel good. The quality seems to be there. I feel like they're pretty equal in quality. I would probably give the SE the better score and the consistency of quality than the Sterling, but both seem to be pretty good as long as you're buying them from, either a reputable dealer or if you're, expecting them before you get them used, you'll be fine. To me, it's about the neck. And I think I prefer the Cutlass neck. I'm not big into small necks, but I prefer that neck. It's a really good neck. The one thing I would say is to focus on with those models is don't focus on the price, the quality. I'm saying that those things seem to be like, so that's not the real concern for you. Sound-wise, I think they both sound good, and I don't think there's anything about either one of them that would make me, discourage you from purchasing one. But the necks are so different that you have to consider that because, it's not likely I would see a whole lot of players that have both those guitars, playing both those necks and loving both those necks. So, Grumpy Digga says, my supers are not working. Okay, can I ask a question via email? Sure. Big purchase problem, simple device as gear related. Waiting till February for pickups. Yeah, you can send a question. We're working on that. You can send the questions to Ask Know Your Gear. And if you do a super chat and we miss it, we tend to scoop them up because the moderators will give it to me later, or I'll find them when I'm doing the recap and I'll come back at it later. A lot of times, a lot of people, when they say I don't answer a super chat, they don't realize that it just happened when they weren't expecting it to happen, or it happened on another episode, or 8 out of 10 times you've left it blank. So we just had recently that somebody got upset about a super chat, and I had to screenshot it and send it to my wife because she was saying, hey, this guy's saying you're not answering his question. I screenshotted her so she saw there was nothing in the body. There was just nothing there was no question. There was nothing in that body to say anything. So he obviously didn't know that whatever he typed didn't go through. So I can't answer nothing. Could be like, hey, somebody sent me a blank screen. So anyways, long story short, if you do a super chat and I somehow miss it, please don't even hesitate. Just send it to Ask Know Your Gear and say, hey, this is a super chat. I can pull it up and verify all that stuff without no problem. Obviously, try to get as many of those through as possible. Curtis C says, who is distributing that $200 to $300 guitar? Unbelievable. I'm not going to tell you. I can't tell you. So I can't tell you. See? So there you go. It's not because of an embargo date. It's because I really need the weight of the video I don't want to leak it too soon. I really think it'll be a fun video. I'm really excited about the video. You'll know it. It will not be any question in your mind of what video it is when you see the title and how I title it. So HK says, hey, Phil, I love the Helix now, and it took some learning. Did you ever try the Helix? I had the Helix. So I've tried them all. Effects processors like diets. You try them all, and they never work. No, I'm just kidding. So anyways, I've tried them all. Line 6 sent a Helix to me. The LT, the light. I tried the not LT one. Okay. For me, I like the HX Stomp. I thought I was all good. What happened was some people will talk about they don't like the Helix as much as the Fractal or whatever it is they don't like or do like. What I will tell you for me is out of all the processor units, the Headrush is the best to work with. I love the touchscreen. I call it the toddler graphics. It's like as simple as like your first day, working fast food is like just a picture of a burger button. Like I want a burger, fries, and a Coke. I mean, everything's just laid out to where it's almost dummy proof, almost. That being said, Headrush sounded great. I just didn't like it as much as the Helix. I thought the Helix sounded a little bit better. To me, it's never about this. When somebody says one sounds good, one sounds bad, to me, it's what sounds are in it that I want to use and how close can I get those sounds to sound good. And I honestly think you could actually hate and like a Helix or any of these products based on what sounds you're going after. I'm not going after the metal sounds, so I can't really attest to that. I'm usually going after the rock sounds. Yeah. I want to play like punk rock. I want to play blues. I want to play rock stuff and metal, but not like, the deathcore stuff or not like gent or anything like that. So the sounds I found in the Helix, I was able to find really, really good. In fact, I like the Helix so much, I should point out this, that the reason I have a Dr. Z, which is behind my Ingle right there, is because I really like I forget what it's called on the Helix, but there's a name where they obviously imply it's a Dr. Z. And I really like that setting, and that led me down a Dr. Z rabbit hole. So I ended up liking the HX Stomp. To me, it was simple as it had 3 presets, and those sounds, I got a clean, a lead, and a dirty. That's all I needed. And, but, as I keep saying for some reason, but I tried the Fractal. And I thought the Fractal sounded a little better to my ears. Things sounded a little more amp-like. Everything sounded just a little bit better. Could that be a little placebo of like, hey, it costs more, so therefore it's better? Sure, gear math always applies, right? It sounds better because it's more expensive. That is a hard thing to beat psychologically, okay? But barring that, I thought the Fractal sounded a little better. I did not like the Fractal seemed harder though for me. It was a harder process. Everything seemed like I'm sitting at a bench doing this. I'm not enjoying this. Then I went to the Kemper. Did the Kemper sound the best to me? I don't know if it sounded the best. I preferred it the most, but it was really kind of like, to me, it was the best of all the worlds. The Kemper to me is not about like, oh man, this sounds the best. It ticks the boxes that were important to me. It was easy enough to use, okay? Kind of like the head brush, kind of like the Helix. I felt like the interface was usable. I liked having knobs, like something I liked on the Helix, having some knobs. I liked that it had built-in power. So I use that and I plug it right into a cabinet. I don't use FRFRs. I went down that road. I've done videos where I've did all the FRFRs, and I finally came to the conclusion that I'm like, no, I just want this thing to sound the way I want. I want it to sound like I said, one of my amps, which is my small box, which is up above me right here. And I just voiced it and put it through this cabinet. And I like that this had power. So I was doing the same thing as like a lot of you guys will do. I'll have like the HX Stomp or one of those units, and then I was running into a power or into a combo, or FRFR. And I just kind of thought one day like, wow, the appeal to me of this is I could take this and I just grab it like a little head and grab it in a cabinet and go. And there you go. And so that's why I chose it. We talk about this, and this is the important part. We talk about things sometimes as how they sound, but remember, there's all kinds of reasons why an artist or you as a musician would want something. Practical is a reason to check something. Obviously, it has to make sense. I love sometimes, like I told you this before, working musicians are unapologetically cheap, which is why I like them so much. What I mean by that is, they will react the hardest. Somebody will say, $700, that's ridiculous. That's because you don't want to pay it, right? But it's your hobby. So if you can't afford it or if you don't want to pay it, I understand, but it's working musicians like, no way I'm paying $700 for this thing that I know I'm going to break in the next year, or, what I mean? It's, to them, it's all function. Everything is priced to function because there's an equation of how much they make versus how much they're going to spend. So they're looking for true, tried, dependable gear. And that's the problem with having the internet now and having all of us sit in a community and talk together. Some of you guys lose, for some reason, connection with the fact that everybody has a different need for why they do something. I saw Scott Grove a second ago. He was in the chat. Scott Grove, he was a working musician touring. And a lot of times when he's talking, he talks in a very pragmatic way of this works and sounds great. I once got to interview one of the guitar players for Garth Brooks, and he was using a lot of Boss pedals. Actually, I actually take it back. I didn't interview the guitar player. I interviewed the guitar tech. And anyways, they were explaining that they wanted pedals that they could find easily if they broke, because it's a function of they can't afford for this stuff to go down and then have to special order, a pedal and wait 9 months. I'm doing this off memory. It was a while back, but you get the point. The point is that you could look at somebody's pedal board and see an expensive pedal. That's because they like the way they sound. You could see somebody has an expensive pedal because it's durable. It could be two different reasons why they have that product on their board. Same thing for something inexpensive, right? Maybe it sounds good. Maybe it's good enough. Maybe they expect to go through 6 of them. I've seen musicians use a cheap piece of gear and have 6 in box ready to go for when one breaks, because they have decided everything they use breaks. So at this point, just be how many backstocks can they have of that? So this is all the reason why I say you have to tie in the reasons why I pick a Kemper, is because, like I said, to me, the form, function, and sound work for me specifically, but I would never say something as so bold as say, this one is the best. It just works for me. And to me, that's what matters the most, that I use it, that it does its intended purpose. It has to functionally give me joy, let me play music that I want to do, use it in a productive manner, in a way. And there you go. That's as simple as that. So I like these discussions, and I like having these discussions with you guys. I hope, like I said, I hope this channel and this show is never about me saying stuff and then you guys take it as the gospel and just regurgitate it. It's always about an idea we discuss. You guys read the, chat sometimes, but more importantly, you can go discuss this with your friends and your fellow musicians and, come up with what works for you. All right. Hold on a second. All right. Derek wants to know, can you compare greenback versus creamback versus vintage 30s, or what other recommendations for a 212 classic hard rock tone? So I like all 3 of those speakers. Those are the 3 speakers I like, and I like them for different reasons. However, my ear goes through different times. Like I said, just different amps. Right now, just like different amps. Right now, I have like a certain amp I like, right? I told you that. Right now, I have a certain speaker I like. I like the creamback the most. I usually like the vintage 30. I like how it's bassier. I like how it's fuller. Right now, that bass and fullness sounds a little muffled to me. So, and that could be, again, as you get older, you're going to lose your higher end hearing, right? And I might like the creamback because it has that. Look, that's real. You have to deal with the reality of life. As a man, more so than women, gets older, they lose their high frequency hearing. I know that for a fact, by the way. I had that happen to me once. I once worked at a piano store. And by the way, that's where I met Ralph, my best friend. And pianos are very expensive. This is a different game. People don't buy pianos like $399. No, we're talking about pianos can be 70 grand. Okay. When they spend 20 grand, 15 grand, 60 grand, 70 grand, and somebody calls and has a problem with their piano or organs, they have organs too, high and expensive organs, you go. You're right. You're the person that worked at the store. You don't just like on the phone going, well, try this. No, you get your ass up, get in your car, and you go fix their problem. And the problem was, one time we sold a piano to an older gentleman. And at that time in my life, I mean, he seemed like he was 106. He was not 106. He was retired. It was a retirement community. We went there, and him and his wife were there. Very nice people. And the problem was the high key on the piano was not working. He said it sounded dampened or almost like it wasn't happening at all. So we walk up. You ask him to do what you always do, like anybody's trying to solve a problem. Have them recreate the problem so you can see what happens. He hits the key and goes, ping! And we both snapped. Both us, I think it was 19. Both teenage children at the time were like, whoa! And he was like, see? And we're like, no. And anyways, we worked with them. We looked, we inspected. If any of you do repairs when you deal with someone who's, that's not crazy, because in his situation, we know now what the problem was. But, if you guys repair things for a living, you understand sometimes you have a client or a customer and they're saying things to you. And it's a lot easier to just, okay, let me look, than say, no, you're wrong, right? So we did the inspection. We did the whole thing. We got back. The manager of the store whose name is Jeff, by the way, goes, how'd it go? And we told him what happened. And he goes, oh, yeah, he probably can't hear it. And we're like, we had no idea what he's talking about. And he's like, oh, he goes, I didn't tell you. We didn't tell you. And I'm like, no. And he goes, yeah, that happens. Actually, it happens quite often. It won't be your first or your last time this ever happened. Sometimes the older men tell you that the high keys are having a problem. They're either muted or they're not working at all. And I was like, oh. So that being said, now we're all older. We have more research, right? We know that exactly that does happen. And men lose their high end frequencies, hearing first, and most. So my answer to you is that, I would imagine over time I might want a brighter sounding amplifier or speaker and stuff. So that's what happens. So maybe that's why I like the Creamback. Maybe I just like it because it's more articulate right now. To answer your question, would I do a shootout between those three speakers? I might. We talk about that all this stuff. The problem right now is this, the problem about like that whole, like, hey, would you do a video about this right now? Everything would be a March, April, May type concept. Cause like I said, I'm booked through January and February. Like I can't do it physically anymore of what I have coming out. Not because of the new product. We have just a lot of content coming out that I've been working on for a while. There's been a lot of back end behind the scenes stuff coming. Okay. Wayne says, what? I can't hear you. Yeah. Now, what's funny is you guys, so you can do them online now, but you can do a hearing test. I absolutely will tell you right now, not 70-year-olds, not 80-year-olds, 40-year-old men, 50-year-old men get hearing tests. And so, I've had a hearing test recently and mine was actually fine. My wife's hearing was her high-end frequency was lost a little bit, but definitely get a high-end hearing test on the regular, especially if you're a musician, because it'll help you in life. Trust me. It's just good to know. Oh, Landon Bailey says he was hoping it was an excuse for not hearing his wife. Okay, so on that note, hold on. I got to tell you this. This is one of those things. I know it's not a guitar story. Hold on. Let me clean this out. Let me swap this so we can do two things. I'm going to pin that, Landon. Then I'm going to tell you this. I got to do this question. It says, Adrian says, hey, Phil, will a custom shop Gibson Les Paul stay in tune better than a normal Les Paul standard? The answer is yes, but not for the reason you think. Yes, is it built to a higher standard? Sure, of course. It's a custom shop. Everything should be better coming from a custom shop than a production shop, and so on and so on and so on. However, that is not the thing that makes it stay in tune better. What makes it stay in tune is that it had more hand time devoted to it. Somebody went through and actually meticulously went through each thing to make sure it was done right. That being said, that person is no more skilled than a guitar tech, but obviously we're talking about a credible guitar tech. So a credible guitar tech, in other words, someone you vetted as being a good guitar tech, is going to have the same skill set as somebody in a custom shop that's doing the final setup of an instrument. So what that means is you can hire somebody to give that. That's what I'm basically getting at. You can get a Gibson standard Les Paul and have somebody kind of give it the custom treatment. In other words, have go through and make sure the nut slots are cut correctly, everything's cut correctly, everything's done right, and set up correctly. It would get you there. So yeah, absolutely. And I know someone's going to say, because that's what they always say anytime Gibson comes up with this, is, well, they're all Pleqed. The Pleq process is valuable. The Pleq process is not a guarantee. Pleq does not mean perfect. Pleq is a machine that does a setup. To say that it's perfect is not accurate. To say that it is more consistent than a person is accurate because it's a machine. However, part of the inconsistency of a Pleq machine is that a person has to finish the job. So you're still at the mercy of a person at the end, which is why I had a Squier Pleq and did a video about that, because as many times as I watch so many good videos out there on the internet telling you what the Pleq machine does, it always seems to give the impression that somehow the Pleq is an infallible machine in which your guitar will be perfect because this machine did it. A Pleq machine cannot do anything better than a person. It just can do the same thing as a person over and over again, consistently. so it's, again, there's always going to be, and the variables are not just the machine, the variables are the guitar, the weather, you name it. So I like Pleq, and I recommend it for the most part. And the fact that a Gibson is Pleqed is great, but again, that doesn't guarantee anything because there's still more levels to go, and there's also more testing. Okay. Brian says a Pleq is repeatable. Of course. Well, that's the whole point. All of it's repeatable, but I understand what you're saying. It's yes, that's why it's more consistent, because it can just do things over and over again. However, my point is, we did this when I did the 55-point inspection deep dive video at Sweetwater. That video really tells the best story in history when it comes to guitars and why you get inconsistent guitars from either a retailer like Sweetwater or a manufacturer. At the end of the day, it's somebody's job is to do something. They only have so much time allotted. They're not going to work on this guitar until it's perfect. They're going to work on this guitar until it passes whatever QA inspection process has been set. And that standard is always set at a point where the majority of the guitars can pass. That is period. When you deal with a small builder and he's building you a custom guitar, he's going to build that guitar. She's going to build you that guitar until it's right, because that's the game they're in, which is make a guitar until it's perfect, make the client happy, deliver the guitar. A manufacturer or a Pleq machine and a manufacturer, or a Pleq machine and a retailer is going to do the guitar until it passes QA. And if one thing I've been doing when I do the inspections, the geeky stuff section of a deep dive video, when I measure the action, there was a YouTube channel, a small YouTube channel, asked me this great question. They said, "Do I really think that, when I don't want to say investigate, but when I show the setup of a guitar that I receive new from a manufacturer or from a retailer, says, don't you expect that customers really should get their own setups?" I said, yes. They said, then why do you show the setup? And I go, because really what I'm trying to do is tell you a story with something better than just a story. I want to show you guys, if I do 100 guitars, what is the consistency and inconsistency of reviewing 100 guitars from all those brands? And one thing I can tell you that I already knew was going to happen the first day I ever did any of these review videos, because I already had seen it over the years of doing it as a repair tech. I knew almost every guitar was going to be 2 millimeters from the 12th fret, the top of the 12th fret, to the bottom of the string, pretty much across all the strings. And the reason is because that's the spot where most guitars can live without buzzing. That's where, like I said, it's not about a guitar being bad or good. It's how good can you get the guitar? Can you get the action even lower? Can it, ring out without any buzz? And so if I told you, well, I'll just tell you this. If I said that you could make 1,000 guitars and set the action at 2 millimeters and get them out the door, I say yes. But if I told you take those same 1,000 guitars and set the action to 1 millimeter, I bet you half of them would fail the inspection. They would buzz, they would have issues, they would have dead spots. So to me, the same thing with the Pleq. It does a good job, but it does the job it's set to do, which is to pass a QA system. So with Gibson is going to build the guitar, whether it's a production, expensive USA guitar or the custom shop, they have an expectation, which is to get it to pass their QA. So quality assurance. I say QC. anyways, it doesn't matter. So my whole point of that is to tell you, get your guitar set up if you want it to play like a custom. Jennifer wants to know, why aren't 0 frets more common? The biggest reason is because over time there's a spot that wears into the fret, and of course that is a problem. Plus it's one more fret to do, and obviously it's also because it was associated originally with a lot of inexpensive guitars sold at Sears. It's an expensive kind of thing. It's not kind of associated with high-end expensive guitars. However, a 0 fret with a stainless steel fret is kind of not gonna have those problems. But I like 0 frets just fine. Okay, so we'll end on this note. Okay, this is hilarious. So, Landon did this. Landon basically said, when I made the joke about high-end hearing, obviously, you won't hear your wife. This is a true story. I feel horrible ratting him out, but it's just so funny. I have to tell you. So my father-in-law got a hearing aid, and what I was told by my my wife's mother and father, my in-laws, was that the doctor said that he was having trouble hearing high frequencies. And I was like, oh, okay. I obviously told you the story I just told you, so I was aware. I'm not shocked to hear this. He's in his 70s now. And he has trouble hearing women's voices. And I thought that was a weird thing. I thought that was really weird. Like, I was trying to picture in my head a doctor saying, oh yeah, you can't hear women's voices. That's the problem. So he, but my wife's mother is with him saying, yeah, he can't hear women's voices. And the doctor told him that's because their voice is higher than men's. And I'm like, oh, that's really crazy. So I took that as face value. That was the story. That's where it ends almost, except for almost a year later, we were on a road trip with them and we were talking and he forgot his hearing aids. And so that was a concern because we were going to do something where he would probably need them. And so they were saying, oh, well, let's go back to the hotel room and we'll get his hearing aids. And they were talking about this. I'm like, okay. And then the conversation came up again about him not being able to hear women's voices because they're too high. And that's the problem here, right? And she was saying something to him from the backseat of the truck. He didn't hear her, right? And I said, he's Mary's talking to you. And he goes, oh, okay. And he's listening to her. And he says, I couldn't hear you. And I said, yeah, remember you can't hear women's voices. I was just being smart ass. And she's like, well, that's why we got to get his hearing aids. And right then, this is what happens. I said, yeah, I still think it's crazy, right? Your doctor says you can't hear women's voices. And he goes, yep. And Mary's like, yeah, that's what he says. And I go, wait, that's who says? And she says, that's what Ken says. I said, no, you said his doctor said he can't hear women's voices. She said, no, I wasn't with him at the doctor. He said when he came home, the doctor said he can't hear women's voices. I said, let me get this straight. So you're telling me he came home and told you that his doctor says he can't hear women's voices? And you didn't think to follow up on that and validate that in any way? And she's like, no. And then you could see her face thinking like it never occurred to him that that's just something he said. So the long and short of the story is we found out that we don't know the answer. We don't know what the doctor said. But for a year, all the women in my household were convinced that he could not hear them because the doctor said. It's not the best story, but I always just love that. I'm like, I know I'm going to have to pull that one day. Yeah, my doctor says I can't hear women's voices. That's the problem. That's why I'm not answering you. So, all right. That's the comment you get to end with. All right. Also, I want to do this in year end. I just want to thank all the patrons who support the channel, all the members who support the channel, all of you who support the channel by hanging out with here every Friday, all the super chats, all the thumbs ups. Remember, the thumbs ups are free. They do just as good sometimes as the money, if not better, because I don't know. YouTube says it helps. Why would I doubt that? Also, I want to thank the moderators so much for helping and taking the abuse every year. Last year we did the moderator mugs. This year I think we're doing moderator t-shirts. So I'll be reaching out to the moderators, let you guys know what we're doing. The issue has been what to do. Last year was so much easier when wife made the mugs. The mugs have been great, except for we did them last year. So we will do something for you guys. Literally, my wife is working on it as we speak. Something to say thank you for all the time you guys put in the show, doing stuff. And I appreciate you guys helping out as always. And like I said, I'll get a hold of you. If you guys could do me a favor, the moderators too, also, if you could just send me an email saying hi to the P McKnight 7 so I could forward you over to her. I realized that when she was asking me the other day, how do I get a hold of you guys? I go, oh, well, I get a hold of this one on Facebook and this one through Instagram and this one this way. And she was like rolling her eyes. So you could all send me an email so I could just give you guys her email and we can get that all taken care of. And we'll get you something a little nice out there to say thank you. As everyone else, I just want to say thank you guys so much for a great year. Obviously, I'm excited about January. I'm excited about stuff. Look for all the videos. And I'll see you next year, which is next week. Same time, same channel. And just thank you. And until then, know your gear.